young men, 20s, 30s. There are some kids coming with them and stuff, but they're just pouring in 90,000 a month or something. I saw one number show. New York City is saying they're inundated. They don't have enough resources to accommodate for such massive influx of humanity. They're coming from like 100 different something countries are represented at the border crossings every day. So it's not just the traditional border dynamic of Central and Central America or whatever, but there's a picture of hundreds of migrants. This is from Viral News. Hundreds of migrants came into the massive processing center tonight. I was told that migrants have been coming in at a fast rate. It's overwhelming the process, and New York City will surely fall without the correct help. Just because you don't see the migrant crisis doesn't mean it's gone. That's somebody named Leroy Johnson. He's an independent photographer, I guess, videoing things in New York City. I commented, I'm just setting this up and then we can talk about it. I commented on this video, evil always tries to disguise itself under the cover of righteousness. Psychopath oligarchs who hate freedom and middle-class abundance have hijacked our Christian concern for the least of these and the refugee to violently disrupt trust, progress, and liberty. And a listener to the program commented a few different thoughts that I thought would be good to add to this conversation. He says, the correct response from a gospel perspective is to celebrate the opportunity to personally welcome the stranger. I don't believe taxation for social services is just, but we should voluntarily reflect God's radical kindness and thereby redeem what may be an enemy meant for evil. And he said, I recently quoted Matthew 25:43-45 in response to an ostensible Christian who said, these aren't refugees. They are weapons of mass migration intended to upset our culture and replace it with something else. And here's the passage from Matthew. I was a stranger and you did not receive me as a guest, naked and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison and you did not visit me. Then he will answer them, I tell you the truth, just as you did not do it for one of the least of these, you did not do it for me. And then Reed goes on to say, intense fear that immigrants will disrupt our cultural heritage is Satan's desired reaction for instigating the mimetic crisis of anxiety over scarce resources and loss of cultural influence. If he can get Christians to scapegoat refugees, he's pulling them away from the gospel. So that's a lot, but I thought maybe we'd set that up as your reactions come in with those.
Well, leftists thrive when there's conflict, right? They always try to create conflict in particular, and I guess I sort of hesitate using the word leftist. That's always been kind of my go-to way of referring to the whole the whole progressive movement, the communists and stuff. But there's probably a better term that I need to start using. But they're trying to create conflict. I think they're trying to foment a race war. They're trying to make people they're trying to pit newcomers that don't have any vested interest in the local community against the people that do have a vested interest in the local community. And I think what they're trying to do, they're trying to get all of us to fight against each other based upon ethnic lines while they pickpocket us, you know?
Yeah, I wonder where these folks going, and these people are cannon fodder. It's like a bioweapon, and most of them are probably well-meaning, right? They want to, come to a place, or not all of them. So the people for the appropriate Christian response, right? It's if you have an individual that is sick and tired and hungry, what do you do as a Christian? You feed them, you help them, right? But try to scale that to this collective level when people, for nefarious reasons, are bringing in millions of people without a care for them. Like, they don't get resources. They don't have a kind of a social security number, so they can't even, it's just kind of like cannon fodder. Those people are suffering, it's not like, so it's try to conflate what to do as a Christian to an individual that's suffering to this collective level. It's part of the tool of Satan to muddy things up
Mhm.
and to have Christians fight each other, you know.
So is the response? So how do we actually parse that out? Does it mean that, some people would say, as an individual, if you encounter a refugee, you help them and you do what you can if you're given that opportunity. But as a member of the voting public, you can vote for policies to have mass deportation. So it's almost like a paradoxical response where, if I happen to catch you as a one-on-one person, then I'm going to show my pure Christian humanity to you. And when I go to the ballot box, I can click the button to mass deport you all and hope, just kind of, close my eyes and not think about the individual opportunities I'm, eliminating to do good for. Is that the answer, Shane? Is it something else?
Um,
Trump has
I
called
think
for
it's
Trump has called for an Eisenhower executive order based deportation if he's elected, which I'd like to see that
well,
happen. But God can do whatever he wants. He can put whoever he wants in there.
well, I do think the first thing that should come to every American's mind is our foreign policy. Is our interference in the affairs of other countries. And the simple fact is that the way that we've been trying to portray Russia as being this big bully toward all the countries that surround them, that's what we've actually done to Central America. Since the mid eight at least since the mid 1800s, if not longer. You know, um, and we've turned Central America into a place that's advantageous for American corporations to go down there and make a profit, but uh we've turned it into a really bad place for the native people to live.
Yeah.
So I do think that is something that needs to be at the forefront of our minds as Christians living in our country, which is democratic. It's a republic. So we do have input, and we need to be thinking about what actions our country is taking against the countries down in Central America that's spurred this whole thing. And then the fact that our governments which is involved in arming countries all over the world. It's involved in bombing country. We're involved in bombing. We're dropping bombs in Somalia right now, and no one's really, and the media is not really talking about it.
Wow.
But yet we don't have control over our southern border, and anybody can just walk right across. And like you said, James, we really don't know who in the world is coming.
Yeah.
So I think that all came out a little bit muddy, but I think the highest order thing that we need to be thinking about as a country at the national level is what are some things that we can do at the geopolitical level to take the heat and tension and pressure off of that part of the world, which there's a lot we can do, frankly.
But let's face it, the DC machine has no touch point with the public's interest to get out of interventions overseas. So that's not happening anytime soon.
That's why when we ask, what do we do as Christians? And then we
Yeah.
scale it up to the political level. That's,
Mhm.
we don't live in a Christian nation, right? And the
Right.
political machine, the DC machine, even how it doesn't matter how we vote, it seems these days, they're not reflecting the will of the people, right? So if you could fix this problem pretty simply, right? It's a practical issue, in addition to figuring out how to change the geopolitical machinations that have caused it from Central America. But how about just accounting for who's coming in, right? And then gathering resources to help those people. And then understanding that we have the resources that we have. We can't overextend our resources because then we disintegrate and dissolve as a people. And also so it's a resource allocation that has to be meaningful. Just opening a border will disintegrate the identity naturally of the United States, but it also won't create a new identity of folks coming in. There's not like a culture that's coming in that's coherent and resolved. So it's chaos for the sake of chaos at both the native level and the illegal immigration level. But how about make it easier for immigrants to come to the country, account for them, provide resources for them, and make it meaningful and manageable based on levels. That's not that difficult. You know what I'm saying? But it's not, just like your point before. It's not, the goal is not to solve the problem. We're thinking of solutions. Their goal, the DC machine. And I'd like to ask this question: when we say the West, what do we mean the West? Where does sovereignty lie in the West as we know it now? Right? Because they're not looking to solve the problem. So we're here bashing our heads looking for a Christian response. But what happens at the political level is antithetical to that.
Yeah.
But what is the
like
West?
the folks that